day 12, so the day after I sat on her for the first time. I'm just going to blow through tacking her up really quick. Pretty much just not be too gentle with the tack, kind of throw it up there. What I normally work on the first time tacking them up is I won't have a halter on them at all, and I'll just want to be able to get them comfortable with the tack without me having to hold them. But because I didn't want her to come at me or near me, I kept the halter on. So here I have tied her head around to one side of the saddle. You can see it's not tied super tight, it's just enough so she can't put her head totally forward. And this helps them with flexing. It also can put me in blind spots on her and have her be comfortable with it. There, so she gave into her own pressure right there and gave herself her release. And I did do that to both sides of the saddle, but I just didn't show it because it's just the same either way. And she had a pretty good reaction. Some of them spin really fast, and she just kind of went around slowly until she figured it out. And what you can start doing too is moving around them and trying to pet them on the side where their eye can't really see you. And it just really helps with getting them used to you being in those blind spots. So you can see, starting off long lining, she's already a ton better. Again, all that preparation with the ropes going over her back and her hind end made it so she knows she doesn't have to react when it touches her. She's already starting to have slower reactions. So here you can see her getting a little stuck, and I'm just... It's easier for your horse to figure stuff out when there's forward movement. Pulling back is never the answer. She kind of struggles because her reaction is to like stand still and kind of just lean into the pressure. But when I get her moving forward, she figures it out a lot easier that I'm asking her to move over to the rail and not make a full, complete change of direction. Now I'm going to start working on her moving her shoulders over, which is a pretty big deal. A lot of Mustangs that I've found, actually horses in general, they like to push into you with their shoulder. So instead of moving away or being nervous, once they get to a certain point, they'll actually push into you. Fiesta did this a lot too. I had to start working on it with her pretty early, but I want them to be able to move their shoulder out of the way, and this will help with eventually side passing. It'll help with learning how to lift up their shoulders under saddle. It's definitely something I want to teach early on. So here, she was moving her hind end and not really understanding, so I made a quick correction to help her out. And at the beginning, all I'm looking for is one little step. I'm not even necessarily looking for the crossover. I'm just looking for her to move away from the pressure I'm adding to her shoulder. And you can see I have both my hands up. I have one near her face, and then I have one near her shoulder. Now just practicing adding some weight with the saddle, getting the saddle moving around more, standing up in the stirrups. And I don't really flex their head around while I do this. she's just kind of holding it there at an angle. I'm not adding any pressure for her to turn it. So you'll notice when I start mounting her and getting on her, I also, and I'm doing this just to get like her sides being touched. She's kind of a little bit weary about it. You can just see in her facial expression. But you'll see when I start mounting her that I don't crank her head to one side. Half of the time, I don't even hold the reins. I just start mounting her as if she is a broke horse. And you see, I'm pretty one-sided too, so it's tough for me mounting. Like, my thigh doesn't move the right way, so I want to mount on that side too, but I end up just adding weight with the leg I normally mount with, which is a little bit backwards. I just couldn't get my hip to stretch out. I still want to do everything on both sides. Again, now I'm adding movement and some sound to that other side. And now we had a break in between. Clearly now she's wearing English tack. I have my helmet on, so I'm planning on getting on. And I kind of do that in-between step where I put my knee on the saddle before I fully get on. And the first time, I take my feet out of the stirrups so I can dismount a little bit quicker if I have to. And I believe we worked on flexing for a couple days now, so I'm just asking her to flex to the left. And this is her first time moving under saddle. This is my second time on her.
That's good.
So you saw I didn't have her head flexed when I got on her, and now I moved around a little up there. I'm petting on her, I'm having her flex. Again, she gets a little confused, so I'm just gonna be patient with her. You can see what she's doing now and how we got, like, she backed up into the spot she's in now, which isn't bad. It was all like little steps of her trying to figure it out. Now I was asking her to flex to the right.
There you go.
Good. And notice what she just did. She just yielded her hindquarters. So she got a little bit nervous about either going forward or flexing. I wasn't really paying attention to what I was asking her to do right then. And her response was to yield her hindquarters, which is totally correct. Good. You see she snaps her head back a little bit when I ask her to flex to the right. She's not super comfortable that way, but she is tolerating it. And honestly, I start them all a little bit different every single time. And I did make sure that when I got on, I moved my legs around on her so she could feel them on her sides. So that's a lot of good forward movement. And usually what I do if they don't want to move forward is I'll just keep yielding their hindquarters or flexing them and turning them in small circles, and eventually they'll get very tired of walking in a small area and just start slowly moving out on their own. It's kind of like a spiraling exercise under saddle. So as soon as I encourage her to turn a little bit left, I release and go back to a neutral position.
There you go.
So for me, some people, focus on a lot of forward movement on the first ride. Some people focus on turning. Some people want walk, trot, canter. For me, I just really want my horse to just be comfortable with me being up there. I'm not too concerned on what we're doing. Of course, I want them to be able to yield their hindquarters for if they have to stop, but I really want them to be okay with me up there. So it was a pretty good amount of forward movement. You see I start wiggling my body when she stops and stays still. I move my body around when they stop without me asking to make it like feel like, oh, we're still in motion, we're still moving. It's kind of like a gentle way to encourage forward movement. Good, she yielded her hindquarters again because she just wasn't sure. And that's perfect. I'm never going to get upset about that. There we had a little bit of resistance, but she still turned. I'm never going to get upset about her yielding her hindquarters, especially this early on, because that is the answer that I'm wanting her to give, and she's kind of just naturally giving that. You can see a little bit of that bouncing that she does long lining too, where she kind of bounces off one rein because I'm giving pressure, but she goes a little too far, so I have to correct with the other one right away, and she did that a little bit under saddle too. So I was happy enough with that.
Last time I got off a horse and like
Again, I don't ask for anything super crazy on the first rides. I just get on and
that one hurt.
move around a little bit. Okay, this is the next day. And I'm start working on her legs a little bit more. I know I already messed with her front legs some, but right now this is good for if they haven't picked up their feet yet either. Kind of just put a rope around there loosely and you shimmy it up and down the leg, get them used to that touch. Good. So I start with the rope to get her used to the feeling, and then I'll go down with my hand. And for me, honestly, everyone picks up in different places. Some people squeeze the chestnuts or behind the knee. For me, I usually pick up with their feathers, which I know not a bunch of people do that, but for me it's just like the easiest way. And I'm really happy that she stands still when I pet her legs, because I know a lot of horses where you pet their legs and they just pick up their hoof right away. And I like to be able to brush their legs and work on their legs and wrap them if I need to without them picking them up all the time. Good, so I'm pretty happy with her response for that. She's only picked up her feet a couple times. And again, just showing a little bit of the lunging work that I still go through all those basic exercises with her. And I'm starting to work on petting further back on her. And although her face looks concerned in that, she really did not feel all too concerned with it. So, again, pretty happy with her response to me petting further back on her. And this is her first time out of the Mustang pen / Roundpen area. So that was a really narrow space we just went through, and then a super tiny gate. But she's good. She honestly didn't really care. You can see she's still pretty relaxed with her head low. Yeah, so I'm really happy with her response to leaving the pen for the first time. She definitely was curious when she came out, looked around a little bit more than she has any other day, and I'm really happy with that because she's not a super curious horse. And now I just mess around a little bit with lunging, kind of to test to see where we're at as far as her understanding the pressure, especially in an open area. And I'm, again, pretty happy with this because some of them will try to pull you all over the place because now they don't have the boundaries of the round pen fencing, and she's still stuck with me pretty well. And you can see in this, she's really not too concerned about being in an open area. Now I'm just going to end off our first out of the pen experience with some desensitizing. Yeah, she did pretty well, and this was the end of week 2. So we accomplished leaving the pen for the first time, having a first rider, her first ride. She keeps making progress every day.